James, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on to chat. How's it all going?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for asking me on. Yeah, all good. Gearing up for the tour. Been doing some rehearsing, getting stuff ready. Feeling quietly confident, Maker.
So the tour does commence next Friday. We will speak about that
Hmm.
later on, as well as the album and all other exciting things going on in the world of EMF. But when I like to do an interview, I always like to go back to the early days, and I want to ask James, where did it all come together for EMF? When was it that when was it the band found their love for music, and when did it all come together?
Well, we came from this area called the Forest of Dean. We all the majority of the band, apart from Ian, we all went to school together. And whilst we were in school, in our secondary school, we used to play in bands, not always in the same bands together, but there was like a core, which was me, Mark, Derry, and Zach. So it's not like EMF popped into existence. It's like we kind of, built on it and did all this stuff. Me, Zach, and Derry had this idea for a band, but it wasn't very put together very well.
Yeah.
We had the idea and the vibe, but then we contacted a really good friend of ours called Ian, who lived up the road in this city called Gloucester, who was already established a little bit. When I say established, he was in a band that already had a record deal and they put a record out. Um, to us at that age, that was like, wow, this kid's
Yeah.
made it. You know, he had just finished with his band. So I said, Ian, come and hang out with us for a weekend. And bizarrely, he did just by chance. He was passing through. He called me from a payphone and I says, right, come on, hang out then. So he hung out with us for about 2 or 3 days. And that was the moment, the conception of EMF, where, we kind of clicked, got the vibe together. And then we wrote some songs. And the songs were the first 10 songs that we wrote, almost maybe a couple of others, became the first album, Schubert Dip, and that was the first bunch of songs that we went out and started doing gigs with. So EMF came together really quick, although the kind of fruition of it was quite slow, if that makes sense.
It did come together quite quickly then, considering the first 10 songs made Schubert Dip.
Yeah.
Yeah. D- I think obviously the style of music of EMF, I think it fitted in with them times perfectly
Yeah.
because early 90s you got like music changed, didn't it? I think like from late 80s to early 90s because a lot of dance and indie came into the charts. Do you think that helped EMF?
Yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
mean, we hit just at the right time, but we were young and discovering ourselves. Like, I mean, we were indie kids, or I certainly wasn't indie kid. It was all about the Smiths, the Bunnymen, guitars, not synthesizers at all. But all of a sudden, dance music started coming through, and we were checking out these Balearic mixtapes and, this acid house music of the late 80s. And that kind of captured my interest, even though I was an indie kid. So it's a bit of a juxtaposition between, because in them days, indie kids hated pop synth music.
Yeah.
So it was just like, but there's something about the acid house culture that kind of, it was a bit rough and ready, like guitar music was, And I think naturally we kind of just fused those two genres, if you like. There was a bit of push and pull between me and Ian. Ian was a real guitarist. I was a real techno head. I wanted to like
Yeah.
Detroit techno and Chicago house, and I kept going to him, going, "No, it's got to have a house piano. It's got to have a synth on it." Whilst he was doing all these guitars, and I think the thing about EMF is we took that classic indie songwriting, but just did it with electronics.
Yeah.
And we thought we were being new and fresh, but it just so happens that that was going on in the UK at that time with stuff like the Stone Roses, and obviously we loved New Order, and maybe that was a big influence. But yeah, we really hit at the right time with the idea that we had by accident, by chance, I think.
So it kind of came from them genres blending together, really.
Yeah,
The
totally.
indie,
Yeah,
the
but
and the
I think,
dance.
I mean, consciously we didn't try to do it. I think it was very natural, and for some reason it worked. There was a few major influence. I think there was the development of technology which really helped. So all of a sudden, samplers became accessible, accessible, and sequencers became, before, maybe you couldn't take it into your bedroom and record guitars and sequences at the same time. So it was just a, like, the perfect storm almost of these different. We were listening to a lot of American music, obviously hip hop music,
Yeah.
a lot of soul house, like I said. So yeah, it's just all come together with our old influences of being guitar kids as well. So yeah, naturally happened.
And of course, talking of Schubert Dip, what one thing I wanted to say, what I really like about the album is how well it links together.
Mm.
Like, if you listen to like Children, then Long Summer Days, I think how did that come around? Like, did you really put a lot of focus into like linking the tracks together?
Not particularly. I don't think. Again, I think it was just ants. I mean, when we were putting the album together, obviously we had no success and we weren't really expecting anything. It's not like when we were putting it together, we think, oh wow, this album's going to sell millions of copies or anything. Um, it was just a bit of a stab in the dark, really. And by chance, I think we kind of just hit it right. Things like Children and Long Hot Summer Days. It's really strange because I just had a little rehearsal on my own of the set for the tour. I can't actually say what we're doing on the tour, but
And
those two songs still run together 30
that's good.
odd years on.
Yeah,
So we must have got something right. They're in the same key as well, which helps.
because we seen you at Cubics Festival in the summer.
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
last year in Sunderland. We won't speak about the weather that day. It was horrendous, wasn't it?
man, that was crazy. It was kind of dangerous, but
I know.
yeah.
I've never seen a field like that, and I remember coming home after the festival. You just had to bin all of your shoes.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you
Yeah,
were perfect for that, really, because you really got the crowd going because everyone was kind of like a bit down after they come to a festival and the weather was like it was. And I remember you obviously started with them two songs as well.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad we went on quite early actually, because it must have been quite a struggle for bands. I like festival sets because you're only on for like 40 minutes, so you can just go for it and you can enjoy it in them, and have a great time. Um, it's not the pressure of headlining festivals and stuff. Yeah, I don't know who was headlining. Do you remember who was headlining that night?
I think Squeeze were the headliners.
See, yeah.
But I remember what happened was we watched the Enemy, who were the sub headliners. We watched them, and by that point, it was just a field full of bog. So
Yeah, yeah.
for
Hard work.
Squeeze, we didn't even stay out in the field. We just said, right, we're going to go in the tent where we can just stay dry, and Television were on in there, so that was all right.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, great festival though. Great.
It is a very good festival, I have to say that. Um, if we talk about Unbelievable, of course, the the big hit in 1990. Can you tell me a bit about that? How did you take to the reception of that? Because it obviously blew up quite quick.
It did. It blew up extremely quick. We were on tour with Adamski being his support. And when we started that tour, we were all in the back of a transit van in the, like, staying in really cheap, dodgy bed and breakfasts. And as that tour was progressing over about 3 weeks, we'd started getting some press, and then it'd start hitting in the papers, and people start talking about it, and then it'd go on the radio. So it was a case of weeks where we went from nothing to it being one of the biggest songs in the country at that moment. And by the end of the tour, I felt a bit sorry for Adamski because obviously everyone had heard of EMF now, and
Yeah.
that tune was massive, and we were still just on this little support. And it was really weird the change, from not being recognised to almost not being able to walk down the street, which is kind of strange. Loved it though, loved it.
So I was going to ask how did you take to it all then with all of the quick fame?
Well, yeah, I mean, didn't come that natural to me. I know other members of the band really enjoyed it, maybe enjoyed it a little bit too much, where I had to keep my, you know, shit together a little bit, being the singer and the front man.
Yeah.
And um, but yeah, I think I took to it okay. I think there were certain moments where I loved it. And there were certain moments. It's really weird how all you ever want, all I ever wanted was to be in a famous singer in a famous band. And you get blasé to it really quick, which is really sad. You wouldn't think touring America, you'd wake up one morning going, oh God, I wish I wasn't doing this. But it happened, which is really odd, isn't it? You know what I mean? So, yeah, ups and downs. That's all I can say, Baker.
Of course, with a big hit as well comes Top of the Pops. How was that experience?
Top of the Pops was great. I met some like certain moments stick in my mind. The first time we ever did it, I walked across the studio and the Lars were doing There She Goes,
Oh
and
yes.
we worship the Lars. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, this is it. But the great thing about Top of the Pops is the recognition afterwards. That's when your parents, think you've made it, and everybody goes,
Yeah.
yeah, they're a proper successful band now. Um, so yeah, it was good. This is yeah, loved it, loved every moment.
I want to talk about you mentioned touring there, Schubert Dip, the reception of that
Yeah,
touring. Oh, EMF swing me as guys that would like to have fun on tour. Can you recall one of the funniest touring stories from them times?
probably the funniest stories were the early days when we were in the back of a transit van. Um, I remember we got pulled over once for sounds really bad, and this is really stupid behavior, but I think we were letting fire. We opened the back doors of the bus and we were letting fireworks rockets off down the M6, which is so stupid. When you're like 19, 20, no, 18, 19, this is kind of the behavior you get up to. We were kind of encouraged as soon as we got like bits in the press saying they were the naughty boys of pop. It was kind of like a red flag, a red ball to a red flag. Really, we kind of made us more naughty, um, getting into trouble and scrapes and stuff. Um, yeah, that was a good one. Getting arrested in America at gunpoints. That was kind of quite wild. Stealing the pilot's cap on a flight over to Brazil. That was quite wild. They went nuts.
Really?
Yeah, that was Zach. That was.
Who's- uh,
The thing is, I can't. I'm not very good at remembering the stories. If you ever want to hear the stories, talk to Derry because Derry's got like this brilliant memory of remembering. Every time I see him, he goes, "Do you remember when Zach did that? Or do you remember when Mark did that? Do you remember when we did this?" And I'm just like, "Oh my God, I can't remember any of this." But the amount of wild things we got up to. He's going to write a book. I think one day he'll write a book, which would be brilliant, and then I can read it and remember.
yeah. I'm sure that would be a good read if he's got all the
Yeah,
memories,
he has. Yeah, yeah.
stories, and everything. So, of course, carrying on through the 90s, EMF had, and then after that, EMF had a big break. And I want to fast forward a few years now because
Yeah.
we've got a lot to talk about in the recent times. So, in 2022, Go Go Sapiens was released, which was the band's first new material in so many years. What was it that brought EMF back together to start making music again?
It was a couple of things. We did some 30th, we did I'll say we did two 30th anniversary shows. We did a little warm up in an amazing venue where I live up here in West Yorkshire called in Todmorden. We did this little warm up and it was brilliant. And then we went and played the 100 Club in London, just the 30th anniversary. So I think we just played a load of songs from the back catalogue and we really enjoyed it. And me and Ian sat down and I says, look, I've got a bunch of tunes. Come on up, we'll work through them. Ian got some great tunes. We got together and it came together really quick. There was like no pressure. When we were doing it, we didn't think we're going to put an album out. But then we got a bunch of material together. And because I'd been releasing some solo records for the last like 10 years, I kind of knew how to do the DIY of putting records out yourself, um, which was kind of liberating, really, not having to worry about record labels and things like that. And also, we could, these days with the technology and obviously probably hopefully homing our skills for years, we know how to make records. So we made the record all ourselves, produced it ourselves, recorded it ourselves, got Aidan, who plays drums, he did the drums for us, put it out there and released it and not expecting too much. It was a bit of a leap of faith and it was kind of quite scary. It was the first album in 27 years. We didn't know what to expect, how it would go down, or where it would take us, but we went for it, which was kind of quite a brave move. And from there, it has just been a really positive for the last couple of years off the back of that.
Was that what kind of brought on the new album then? That with how well that did, you thought this is we want to keep doing this?
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of the objectives of the last Go Go Sapiens was let's make, I mean, because there's not much money in it, but I says to Ian, let's try and make enough money to pay for that album and to be able to finance another album. And that was it. You know what I mean? We didn't take any, we didn't think we were going to sell any records. We didn't, we didn't probably sell enough to pay for this new album, but it kind of, that was our thinking. Um, Again, I got a bunch of songs together. Ian got some songs together. We were sat there. We thought, let's take it up a level. So what we did this time, we brought in a producer, and there's a really good friend of ours called Ralph Jezard who produced Schubert Dip and Stigma, the first two EMF albums, and he was he almost felt like part of the band. He was such important to that creative process back then. So I mentioned this to Ian, and Ian said, "Oh, I've already been thinking that." So I gave Ralph, the producer, a ring. I says, "Look, we've got some EMF tracks. Do you want to produce the album, same as what we did 30 years ago? Are you up for it?" And he did it. And honestly, it's taken it up to the next level. I mean, me and Ian can make records okay in our bedrooms and studios, but working with someone who really knows what they're doing has kind of upped our game so much. So yeah, it's next level now, which is brilliant, which is what you want. You want to be stepping up, don't we?
Absolutely, and I have to say I have heard the album.
Yeah.
Matt sent me a shout out to him, helped us arrange this, and he sent me it on SoundCloud. I have had a listen, and
Right.
I really really like it. And
Brilliant.
when you listen to it, you can just tell it sounds like early EMF, like you said,
Hmm.
Schubert Dip and Stigma. So do you think do you think that was a good thing? Obviously, the producer coming in then who did work with you on the first two albums.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he gets us, and he is, as responsible for the sound, I think, as much as Ian's guitars and my vocals. Um, Also, I mean, we were a bit limited on Go Go Sapiens because, it's really hard to record live drums and a band, to capture a band, it's really hard. Go Go Sapiens was kind of, we tried that, but it was a little bit, this new one, the idea was, Ralph, it's got to sound like EMF. We want EMF playing on it, and it's got to sound
Yeah.
just, this is what we're trying to get at. And Ralph's go like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Um, and he knows what he's doing, and we're happy. Just we want it to sound like a band, and it sounds like a band again.
I think it's a brilliant album, and I can't wait to hear some of the tracks live on the tour. I want to speak about the lead single from the album, though. Hello, People.
Right.
Great track came out December last month, and one of the versions features Stephen Fry. How did that come together?
Um, well, we've always had a close contact with Stephen Fry over the years. We had a song that some of the lyrical content was, just calling out the fascists and the Nazis and the bigots, and just what it was more about, just calling out some of the press that are quite nasty to people,
Yeah.
especially immigrants and stuff like that. So it was like a welcoming, song about tolerance and love. Stephen Fry did this amazing podcast called Facts Over Fears. And we cut it up, and we were kind of thinking like a little bit of a like tape boy cutting and pasting stuff like that. We sent it off to him. Stephen Fry absolutely loved it. He gave us his blessing and said he would get on board. And miraculously, that's how it came together. It was a long shot and it worked. But yeah, so it was great having him. He's a bit of a national treasure, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a great single. I've really been liking Hello People a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, tell me a little bit about, of course, the album's called The Beauty and the Chaos. Great title, by the way. Where did that come from then? Where did you get the inspiration from for the
The
album?
title.
Yeah,
Right. Well, we usually think of a few ideas, and I bombard with Ian with loads and loads of titles, and he comes back at loads and loads of me, and then we were kind of going backwards and forwards. And where this was happening, the same with the artwork. Um, so eventually we settled on it, and Ian came up with the Beauty and the Chaos because it is it's in the lyrics to one of the songs on the album, and he quite liked it. So yeah, we went with it. There were some other crazy names flying around, which we can use for the next album.
Yeah,
Nothing goes wasted. Yeah.
keep them keep them under the table for the next one.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to tell me about the album as a whole, The Beauty and the Chaos? Of course, it's out on the 26th. So as we're speaking today on the 12th, 2 weeks today.
You know more than me then, Blake. Is that when it's been released at the 26th?
In 2026. Yeah. I can't believe I'm telling you this.
Oh God. You know what? I'm so into the process of making the record that once it's done, I kind of not lose interest, but just like certain things, it's just like, all right, it's done in my head. Um,
You'll get told when it's out.
I like, yeah. No, I mean, we're really proud of it. It's probably the best EMF album in a long time. That's kind of non-committal, isn't it? It's got some great tunes on it. The one thing I have noticed is that sometimes taking the tunes from the recording of the album to go and doing them live is always a bit tricky. Sometimes it doesn't work and stuff like that. But I think purposely the songs we've recorded sound really good live. There's a few tracks like Read the Room and Red Flags and The Day the Music Died. And honestly, we just set up in a rehearsal room, played them once, and they sound brilliant, and that's it. They kind of just, they work as they are, so there's not too much messing around. On the tour, we're going to do 6 songs from the new album, or 5 from the new album, and then just to not overwhelm ourselves, we'll probably try to put in every odd gig, put another track from the album in there, like a new one, just to keep us on our toes and make life difficult for ourselves, because it's a lot to remember doing, going out and doing new songs and new sets and stuff. So
Yeah.
but we are confident. The band is buzzing, actually. We're in really good form at the moment.
I think five or six songs is probably the standard to play off a new album because, like you say, you don't want to overwhelm yourselves or
Yeah,
anything.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know it's always the same when you go see a band and they say, "Oh, this is a new song," but the songs sound great, so I'm confident. And also, we seem to be playing long sets these days because we've got 5 albums worth of material. We can fill out 2-hour sets. Not that we're going to do 2 hours, but
Not like
at the
Bruce
moment,
Springsteen.
it's about an hour and 25. But I know we're going to rehearse this Sunday. I know by the time Derry's chopped a few out and I've said I don't want to do that, it'll probably go down to about an hour and 10.
No, in 10.
Um, that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Manageable.
nice sized set.
Yeah.
And apologies if I get the name wrong here, but listening to the album, I'm never good when albums first come up. Is it I'm Not Down, the name of the track?
I've been down.
I've been down, yes, sir. That was my favorite track after listening.
That's so interesting because Ian wrote that song. And when he sent it me, I was a bit like, "Oh, I'm not sure about this, Ian. I don't know." And then he was a bit persistent. So we did it. And then once we did it, I went, "Oh, right, okay." And I says to Ian, I says, "You wait, this is going to be some people's favorite song off the album."
Really? There you
Yeah.
go. Do
Right.
you, do you know what it almost gave me a little bit of a vibe of because I'm a big fan of them as well. It kind of gave me a Depeche Mode vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's exactly what Ian said. When I was saying
Is that
no,
what Ian said?
Ian was saying, "Yeah, but think of it as like Depeche Mode." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, down." Is it Personal Jesus or one of those? It's something off that album, isn't it? Down.
Yeah,
It's got that groove. It's got a swing to it, hasn't it? Because in my mind, I was just hearing the groove and I was thinking it's like a 70s glam rock thing. But yeah, he was right as per usual.
that's so strange because it does give me such kind of a Depeche Mode vibe. Like
Yeah.
I think would you say it's more dark as well than some of the other tracks on that album?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe
Yeah.
the slower tempo and the swing in it and down and down. Yeah, maybe. People have picked up on that though. So yes, you're not alone, Baker. People do love that.
Well, I'm hopefully looking forward to hearing that one live. And speaking of live gigs, the new EMF tour, of course named after the album, The Beauty and the Chaos tour, kicks off next Friday. And do you want to say about the tour and where you're heading on the road?
Yep. So the first weekend, which is next weekend, is Bristol, London. Bristol's great. It's almost a hometown gig for us. And then following weekend, we've got you kind of put me on the spot here. See if I can remember. We have got Nottingham home for Grimsby. And then after that, I think we got Liverpool. I know Portsmouth's in there. I know Norwich is in there. And then there's going to be one that oh yeah.
How are
I
you
don't
looking
know.
forward?
There's about 12 dates, I think.
How
Yeah,
are you looking forward to getting back out on the road this
yeah.
this
Well,
this?
I could have a look on the back of the t-shirt, but I'll take the t-shirt off and have a look. No, I won't do that. Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to getting back out there. It's always really good. It's tiring. Um, gosh, because we put so much into the shows, we always give it 100%.
Yeah.
So it's quite exhausting afterwards. Um, a lot of traveling, and but yeah, we are going to do it. We're going to love it.
I think it's going to be a great tour, especially
Yeah.
coinciding with the release of the new album. And if I ask if you've got any plans, what's in store post EMF tour is I'm sure have you got a few festivals up the sleeve for the summer?
Yeah, the festivals are starting to come in. They usually come in around this time. There's a few nice festivals, a few dates abroad. Trying to get out to America, which is always quite tricky because it costs a lot of money, and even the working visas and stuff like that make it really hard these days.
Mm.
We have got 3 dates at the end of the year with, and I can't tell you this, but it's with another big band. We're doing a co-headlining. And I
Oh,
would love to tell you, but I'll probably get told off if I tell you. But keep your eye out for that one.
yeah.
And then yeah, just like plodding along really. I mean, we're at a really nice level where it's not too overwhelming. We're not
Mm.
doing too much. We've kind of got to that stage, going out, doing some great gigs, promote the album. That's it really.
I,
Simple.
I think it's going to be great. And another thing I want you to talk about is I was watching a video on Facebook the other day about how merch is important. You've got one of the t-shirts on which will be on sale at the gigs. Do you want to talk a little bit about the merchandise and the impact of that?
Yeah. I mean, the merchandise was one of the things that got us going again as well. Because for that 30th anniversary, which I mentioned before, I did some merchandise then. And that kind of got a little bit of interest in the fans. And because we do the merchandise all ourselves, it's like a little cottage industry. I get to, write the envelopes out, take them down the post office, and just there's that connection with the fans, which is
Yeah,
really nice and really important, which I never saw before. It kind of it's given me a different outlook, and even give me a different outlook now. So when I go and do gigs, before I would just sit in the dressing room, not talk to anyone, do the gig, and then come off. But now I quite enjoy going out and chatting to people, and seeing how important EMF is to them. You know what I mean? Which you don't really know when you're in your own little bubble. So the merchandise has certainly helped with that, and it's really good fun. It's almost like having your own clothes label. You think of a
yeah.
design, got a really good team of people who put it together, people who print it, and then obviously we do all the mail out. We do the shop ourselves, mail it out. The local post office loves me because I turn up every so often with a big box of merchandise for them to sell, and it's fun. It's no hassle, and it's good. Yeah, it's nice, healthy.
Fantastic, and it's that connection I imagine you love seeing. But like I said off camera, we'll be coming down to the show at the Clooney in Newcastle on 11th of Feb. So really looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll see you there.
Can't wait. Was it the Clooney? Is it
The
Clooney?
Clooney, yeah.
Sounds wicked. I've heard really good things about it,
I have to. Yeah, so I look forward to that one. You'll be the first band I see in there. But
Right.
James, I want to again thank you so much for coming on to chat today. It's been a pleasure, and can't wait for that album to be released and to see you on the tour.
Great. Thanks, Baker. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. And then make sure you come and say hello when we get to Newcastle, please.
Will do.